Hi, everybody. My name is Aaron Shea, and welcome to Habatat Now. I have the honor of exploring something new with everybody today. We have a 6-week exhibition. Never done that before. A 6-week exhibition with artist Kathleen Elliot, who's world renowned for her flame working skills. And I'm so excited today to really talk to you about it and bring Kathleen with us on this adventure virtually. If you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, like, subscribe, hit that bell, share with your friends. We're going to be making more videos that are shorter for people who aren't used to this kind of format, and it should be a lot of fun getting the word out. So I'm super grateful to have you all here today, and I'm honored to have Kathleen. Kathleen, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
That's great. So we're going to start by sharing my screen. I have a robot behind me, so it's my first time doing this at work. So give me a second to make sure that I have this thing fully working, and it is. I love that. All right, I'm going to share my screen and start this talk. So we're welcoming Kathleen. Tell me you can see the big banner, Kathleen. Can you see it?
All
right, good. All right, so we get to the right screen, and we thank you for being here today. And I want to let everybody know I'm going to do the homework here. The Splash Show is still online. It can be seen at glasscoastweekend.com. Lots of beautiful things still available for sale, and I want to make sure you've seen it, and it will continue. Little homework too, we're still planning our Habatat Direct, which is Glass 49, opening on May 1st with a couple of VIP days for the AACG. So mark it your calendars. I'm looking forward to some fun virtual events then. It will not be a 3-day event like the past, but it will be a great place to explore glass from the safety of our own homes. This is our plan, September 4th, to see everybody live in person, to have an actual exhibition here. We're partnering, I'm hopefully planning with the Toledo Museum of Art because they have an amazing facility that cleans the air and has had it for a long time. So we're gonna go over and visit them, hopefully have some events. So I'll keep you in the loop for September 4th. We're planning our next auction for late March. So if you have any consignments, we just had Dan Fox here. Many of you know him. He does a lot of photography for us and our clients. He does great work. And we got some amazing things in recently, and I'm excited for it. So without further ado, Kathleen, I'm gonna show this video of your virtual tour, if that's a good way to start. So let me share my sound, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, or when Kathleen's talking, we can explore that as well. Here we go. Let's go, YouTube button. Looks like we're lagging a bit. Figure out what's going on. Stop it, start it again. It should be working. Come on, robot.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Elliot. Welcome to my home and studio. While we're here, I thought I'd show you a few of my favorite things around the studio. This piece was made by Masami Koda, who was my interpreter when I taught in Nijima, Japan last year. Masami is a beautiful, sensitive artist and a lovely person, and I quite fell in love with her. She made this piece for the auction at the end of our class, and I snatched it up. She called it Hanging in There. This little dog is maneuvering all these tricky situations in life. I really love it as a memory of my time with Masami.
Yes, please.
In 2012, I taught flame working at Pilchuck Glass School while James Mongrain taught glass blowing. We made this piece together for class demonstrations. I made these tiny flowers, fruits, and leaves, and Jim put them on this elaborate goblet. Even though neither of us would put this out in the world, it's one of my treasures because it's just a memory of an exciting, humbling, incredible experience. I really like this collection of stuff. I'm a plant person, not much of an animal person, but I really love plants. And early when I was doing glass sculpture and making my natural botanical series, this wall was packed with plant parts that I used as models. There were days when my husband would come with me up to this country road near our house, and he would drive, and I had the back of the hatch open, and he would stop so I could hop out and grab plant stuff and put it in the back of my car. So I just packed all that stuff here. This is a really cool example. I found this really interesting pod with these big swoopy leaves, and I made this, which is part of one of my offerings pieces. I used this pile of kelp as a model for another of my offerings pieces. I cast my husband's hand, and he's offering a pile of kelp. This is just some of my favorite stuff in my studio. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the studio tour. Thank you very much for watching.
So looking at our salad. All right, great. That was great. Thank you, Kathleen, for sharing that with us. So this is the part where I stop sharing my screen and you take over. So,
Okay,
let's give it
I'm
a
sorry
practice.
about that video. That somehow did not play well,
Oh, really?
but
The choppy or was
it's on the Habatat YouTube channel. Okay, let me get this set up. There we go. Okay. Okay. Whew. Thank you, Erin. Thank you for hosting my exhibition, and thank you for the opportunity to this presentation. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate you taking an interest in my work. I'm going to speak for about 30 minutes about my background, education, how I came to glass and art, and talk through I have 5 series of work, and then we'll have questions and answers at the end. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be using notes as I go through the slideshow. Even though this is my story and my work, my notes help me keep my thoughts organized, especially when I'm nervous. So I'm going to start with my family. This is my husband. I don't know how to get rid of that thing across the top. Erin, do you know how to do that, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. No one else can see it.
Okay, good. All right. Start with my family. This is my husband, Brent. He is my best friend, love of my life. He is my hugest supporter in a million ways. I'm just absolutely thrilled to be married with this guy. He's the best person I know. These are our kids. We have 5 grown kids, ages 33 to 23, and a daughter-in-law and my girlfriend-in-law, not sure what you call that. And we have this little bug who I obviously adore. A little bit about my background. I was born in Akron, Ohio in 1958 and moved to California in 1960 and have lived here since. I've had some interesting, extraordinary experiences and learning opportunities in my life. Just after high school, instead of going to college, I lived in the hippie commune for a few years. Talk about an interesting learning experience there. In my late 20s and 30s, I did many personal development programs and what I call alternative spirituality. I participated with a shaman for 10 years in ceremonies and learning circles. I had the extraordinary opportunity of meeting and receiving teaching from Carlos Castaneda, who is one of the pioneers of the human transformation movement. I participated in a Course in Miracles study group for years. So really interesting, formative experiences there. For nearly 4 decades, I've studied applied philosophy and linguistics. Career-wise, I came to the arts later in life. I was 7 years a hairstylist. And then in administration, I worked for an educational company. I was in the semiconductor industry doing organizational development and training when a friend there introduced me to glass. He had done scientific glass blowing, which is the making of specialized laboratory apparatus. And he had a little setup in his garage. And so I picked it up. I loved it. I decided to make beads. Bead making had just arrived to the US. And so I made a little setup and taught myself how to make beads using instructional books, trying to figure out how to make the beads in the pictures. And people were asking to buy my jewelry. A few things lined up, just happened to line up. And Brent suggested that I try glass seriously. Okay. So I applied to Pilchuck Glass School. Those not familiar, Pilchuck was founded by the artist Dale Chihuly. It's outside Seattle and it's considered the top glass school in the world. In 2001, I went and studied with Laura Donifer. I took a glass blowing class. And I just want to take a moment and say, I adore Laura. Many of you know her. She has this super outgoing, zany persona, but when you get out of the crowd, she is one of the most thoughtful, deeply grounded, compassionate, generous people I know. I just absolutely love her. So I took her glass blowing class. I took glass blowing because I thought to be serious in glass, you have to be a glass blower. And after seeing pictures of my beads, one day Laura said, "What are you doing in my class? You should be in the flame working class." So I went back the next year to Pilchuck and took a class with Robert Mickelson. He was teaching how to make these vessels like the one here with a different, these are called Encalmo Graal vessels. Like each of the sections of that vessel are a different bubble of glass that he decorated, and then he reheated, connected them back together to build this piece. I did not want to make these. So I was cutting up the glass bubbles and cutting out leaves and building things out of the cut up glass. After Robert's class, flame working is really hard. I couldn't do much. So I went back the next year and studied with Shane Farrow. I want to take a moment and talk about these two men who I absolutely admire and respect. They are tireless advocates of the glass arts and are both exceedingly generous teachers, mentors, and friends. They share any and all their knowledge, just incredible men. During Shane's class, my bead experience, my learning with Robert, my learning with Shane all clicked. And I started making sculptures, and I knew I wanted to make plants. This is one of the first things I made after my class with Shane. This is the first piece I ever put out in public. As you look at these, imagine they're roughly life size in scale. All these pieces made the first few years were learning pieces. This happened before I had an electronic controller on my kiln. I got distracted and came back and found this piece totally melted. But I love the images, super cool. For a few years, I spent a great deal of time experimenting with combinations of colored glass powders to create organic colors. I was figuring out how to create shapes, how to put the pieces together, how to attach thin leaves to thicker branches and avoid cracking. I was aiming for beautiful details. How can I create the texture of bark? How can I put life into the pieces? While I was preparing for this presentation, I was trying to come up with something new and profound to say about this series of work. I'm obviously not original in portraying nature in art. Artists have been doing it for centuries. But truly, I just love plants. I love the life cycles of plants, and especially their details, colors, textures, shapes, leaves, pods, seeds, flowers, bark. It's all incredibly beautiful to me. Plants and trees return me to spirituality, to peace, gratitude, and appreciation for life. I have a similar experience learning about outer space, moving from the tiniest, beautiful details of plants out to the unimaginable vastness of the universe. I'm reminded that we are very small. I'm reminded that I'm not my ego and I'm not all my trials and tribulations. We're all connected. We're part of one humanity. We are nature and we are part of the great mysteries of life. I want to express that wonder, gratitude, and appreciation of nature in this series of work. This is a little mini series I call Liberty. I'm using these found bird cages and making plants escaping out of them. And these are about my appreciation for opportunities to escape really bad situations or grow out of bad places in life, and my empathy for people who don't have those opportunities. I remember a moment in my studio when I had an epiphany. I can pretty much make whatever I want, and I no longer have to be solely focused on the making itself. So now, what do I want to say with my work? All my interesting experiences and studies came into play in a new way. Philosophy, spirituality, and linguistics share common fundamentals of questioning reality. What is real? How do we know? What does it mean to be human? And what is a good life? These all led me to imagine botanical life in alternate realities. I began with changing the colors of plants and mixing different fruits on one plant. Then one day I had an extraordinary experience that Carlos Castaneda was with me in my studio. Not physically, he had already passed away, but his presence was there. I could literally feel and hear him. He was urging me to let go, to step outside ordinary reality into the non-ordinary. I started making peyote buttons and turquoise leaves. This is the piece that resulted from that experience. One of the claims of Castaneda's teaching was that with rigorous spiritual and physical discipline, when we die, rather than simply just dying away, we can catapult our energy and consciousness to another reality. So I titled this piece, I Wonder Where Castaneda Landed. This is another Castaneda piece I later made. This piece is called School, and it's in the permanent collection of the Oakland Museum of California. This piece is called Angst. For much of my adult life, I have battled major depression and anxiety, and I wanted to depict that experience in an art piece. So I made this little apricot caught in the clutches of this creepy vine that has thorns inside and out. In my imaginary botanical series, I also have these little mini series. This is, I have a bunch of tumbleweeds I've made. I really like tumbleweeds. I have this kind of romantic notion of them living a life and then blowing across the land in a totally different life. I think that's really cool. So I try to give each of these their own personality. I also have a series of cyclones. I imagined in some other reality, if cyclones grew like plants, they would be exquisitely beautiful. I love these forms, and I hang them. And if a light is shined on them, they make really gorgeous shadows. This one is gestating. This is called Cyclone Expecting. It's gestating fruit, kind of like a human with like a mammal with an umbilical cord. There's the peyote buttons again. Questionable foods. This series my work took a really big turn. One day I heard about GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and I started poking around to learn more about them. I learned about Monsanto and GMO testing. I learned about pink slime and pesticides and the bees dying and the treatment of animals, all the sugar and chemicals in our foods, about obesity and other diseases. Around the same time, I got interested in the early pop art movement, where artists such as Andy Warhol and Jasper Johns used everyday objects to talk about the dangers of mass media culture and consumerism. And of course, I started making art, combining these two trains of thought, questionable foods and pop art. I started making using food packaging in the art pieces. So here are soda cans that I cut up and sewed into fruits and then put them on a glass branch. I make the branches in clear glass to signify the depletion of nutrition in our soils and in our foods. These hang on the wall. And I'm using sometimes copper wire, sometimes artificial sinew to sew these together. I want them to look really man-made and constructed, just like a lot of the foods are today. I made this piece after I read that all the papayas in Hawaii are now genetically modified. This is a papaya. This piece hangs. This is an ear of corn filled with Roundup labels. This is about 25 inches long. And I'm talking about food as weapons. This is children's cereal that's all full of sugars and artificial stuff in a bomb. These are some bullets on the left, and then I'm making bullets and filling them with junk food. And then I have a bunch of work that has no glass at all. These are two-dimensional ears of corn. The two on the left are about 30 inches tall, and the one on the right is 76 inches tall. I've cut all those kernels out of food boxes. I made this piece after I learned of genetically modified strawberries that are 3 times as big as regular strawberries, but have no more nutrition than a regular one. This is about 36 inches long. And I have a series of, I call these sugar children. This was the first in the series. I'm using the little symbols that you find at children's schools, like the signs above the bathrooms. And these are all made from products that are marketed to children. So I have a whole series of these. Some of them I'm doing using traditional quilt patterns. So I'm cutting out these food boxes, sewing them into quilt patterns, and then building these sugar children. And so I made a glass pair of sugar children. I flame worked the figures and then stuffed them and lined them with food wrappers. And these I call sugar families, again with the quilt patterns. And these are a riff on those little stick figure decals that people put in the back windows of their cars, except the activities that these families are doing are engaging in our American diet. This is a 3 by 5 foot flag, all sewn from food boxes. And what's in your mouth?
What did you do with all this food? Where you got these boxes from? Where'd the food go?
I have people who save boxes for me.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. And then another series called Offerings. So I was thinking about the effects of living in a culture constantly bombarded by media, advertising, and marketing that's explicitly designed to make us dissatisfied while telling us we deserve better so that we'll buy stuff. Of course, that's going to result in a soup of dissatisfaction and I want, I need, I deserve. What a horrible mood. So I was pondering, how can we remove ourselves from that? And my spiritual studies came in again. Gratitude and generosity create spiritual healing that quiets that loud cultural voice. And so my offerings series was born. I was also inspired by the teachings and the mudras, which are the spiritual hand gestures of the Buddha, which I learned about in an Asian arts class. Each of his hand gestures the Buddha's hand gestures has a different meaning. Each of my offerings pieces includes a hand reaching out from the wall with a glass botanical offering. Some of these I'm carving wood, some of these I'm casting glass. This is hard to see in the photo, but that's a clear pomegranate. I made it clear so you could see the hand design. These are the henna designs that people in India do. Silvered acorns, carved wood again. And the final series I call Hours. This is brand new series. I've just made a few pieces so far. I was inspired to start this series when the Trump administration was cutting back women's reproductive rights. There's so much to say here, but I'll try not to go on and on. I see so much negative energy and action in the world toward women, also toward people of color, LGBTQ, children. I personally grew up with a predator in my life and experienced having my freedom and my body invaded and controlled. I've long tried to imagine how in the world to bring that experience into my work without being creepy or morose. So even though this series was initially in response to negative events, I want the pieces themselves to be beautiful and positive, to be empowering and uplifting. I'm proud we now have our first female vice president and many women making incredible strides in the world. I want to celebrate and empower women in their accomplishments with this series. One idea I have is to do collaborations with other women artists. So we'll see. That's brand new. We'll see where I go with this series.
I like that idea. I do.
Cool, huh? I thought I'd show you a couple commissions because I think they're super interesting and fun, and I love doing them. This was a client who had this alcove above the fireplace there where that basket is sitting. And she had a brand new house, brand new garden. She had put in this brand new fish pond. her son was getting married, so she was getting a new daughter-in-law, just lots of life changes. And so I designed for her a garden that she could redesign herself, a series of glass trellises with botanical elements. So I first made them in vellum paper and made a maquette so she could have a sense what it would look like. And then I mapped it out on my studio floor with tape and yarn and started making the trellis panels. This is a studio shot of the first 3 panels. So we did 3 to start and then 1 per month after that. Every one of these botanical clusters has a hook on the back so that they can all be rearranged and redesigned. I made a base for it, and then Brent helped me install. We figured out a lighting system. And after I put in the first 3, I realized how intrusive those big outlets and plugs were behind the piece. So I had to design special clusters to cover those up. This is the final installation.
Very nice.
Here's another one. A client had this dining room with these 2 glass candlesticks and the clear glass abstract thing. I really love the fabric of her chairs and wanted to play off of that. So I designed these abstract floral pieces. And I made paper ones that we tried out on the wall. And then glass pieces on the table you can see there. This is installation day, spent a ton of time moving those darn papers around. And then one by one, we put up the glass pieces. I really love the 3D element and the gorgeous shadows of this piece. One more, this is an antique bird cage a client asked me to do a Liberty piece with. So I made vines. This was tricky because I had to make a little piece of vine, let it cool all the way so I wouldn't burn the bird cage, and then hold it up to the bird cage, see how it fit, go back to the flame, let it cool, just back and forth. It was just a crazy process. Made all the fruit parts and leaves and start putting it together. And that's the finished piece.
Beautiful.
And then I thought I'd show you just some fun things, like an artist at play. I invented this sort of game for myself. How many ways can I say nest? And these are little nests. They're about 2.5 inches, 3 inches diameter, 3 inches tall with glass eggs. That's about 3.5 inches. These are made from copper wire and glass eggs. That was cast in plaster, and those are glass eggs. I made a little series of miniature toys. These are each about 4 inches, basically. And in 2018, I got to be in the glass fashion show that Laura Donifer hosted in Murano, Italy. They had held the Glass Art Society annual conference there, and Laura invented this fashion show where artists made costumes, and then the models rode in boats through the canals of Murano. That was my costume. That's all. The big collar and crown are glass. This was 2019. I got to teach in Nijima, Japan, one of the best experiences of my career. Absolutely fabulous time. This is a chair I made. It's walnut with glass back and seat. And I used a masking film over the glass and carved out that wood grain design. And yes, you can sit on it. I had an engineer figure out how thick the glass slats needed to be so that it's safe to sit on. And last thing I'll show you, this is a really fun little thing that sometimes happens with art. I had this piece I call The Conversation in an exhibition in a museum. And afterward, a mom sent me a picture of her little girl who was she had taken her kids to see the exhibition, and her little girl was making these little conversation setups with her toys. So I made her some little clay vegetables she could play with. So that's my slideshow.
Okay, Kathy, I got a question for you. Will you stop sharing your screen, please? Great.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the first question we had was, what year did you start showing glass botanicals?
That was probably 2004 or 5.
Gotcha. Great. Some beautiful things there. It's amazing and mind expanding. People have writing, including Laura Donna, for how impressed they are with you and your career and what you do. So thank you for joining us today. I'm going to take back over your screen. I apologize for the no audio in the video. I posted a link and I'll fix it in the replay. New space of work obviously has its kinks, so I apologize about that. So let me take over your screens real quick and show you some follow-up here. Share, let's do this one, go. Okay, so Kathleen's exhibition is up online on artsy.com. Kathleen has worked with me here at Habatat to put together this 6-week exhibition. And the first exhibition is, what is it? Is it botanicals? What's the word, Kathleen?
Natural
botanicals, yep. And I think there's 14 pieces in this show. And I will paste a link in the chat again, I'll send it to you all later too, so you can check it out. Everything is priced after discount. So what you see is what you get. We've pushed the prices down as far as possible. And it's a rare opportunity because Kathleen's work has been in museums or part of exhibitions. So this is the first time we really have our chance to acquire her work and in such a unique way, with every single body of work making sense being put together as we're slowly released. So expect an email from me at least once a week, making you guys aware of the next body of work coming out, and we'll see how this goes. The first collection I'm going to run through kind of quickly here to give you an idea. You saw some of these pieces in the presentation. Let me put on my Habatat hat here. Here we go. And we thank you guys for sticking around. And this is a beautiful piece. It's much bigger than it looks. It's 63 inches wide. And I saw this in the presentation. It's just a stunning example of your work and your exploration and your expertise. And I just wanted to bring up all the pieces that are in the exhibition. And you can kind of see pricing there too. This is the piece that's behind me. Sometimes, when she mixes the fruits together, or you have simply the forms matching the colors like this piece, they're all so beautiful in person. And I wanted to ask you, Kathleen, I know I asked you this earlier, but some of these pieces aren't wall mounted and don't have stands, but the stands are a possibility, correct? If someone sees something.
Yeah, most of them either are on a stand or they're wall mounted or they are suspended.
Okay, gotcha. So there's details in the artsy.com page about each one of these. Beautiful work, apples. Just, you can see, how long she's been doing this to get to such a creative yet almost perfect. You can recognize these works right away. Earlier, Dale Goldheim held up a piece of artwork and she immediately knew it was hers. So that's what's great about.
Aaron, can I interrupt here?
Sure.
Can you put that piece on hold for me? Thank you.
Oh, I will do that, Tim. No problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
3 figs. Another beautiful work exploring the fruit of the fig. Detail there, so you can see it closer. You can see the pricing as well. Everything is plus shipping because all these are with the artist right now in her studio. And we'll continue doing this to let you guys know the exact process and pricing. Let me see, I got some more chats popping up around me, but I'll check it in a minute. Butterscotch lantern pods, beautiful piece, amazing price. It's just stunning. Similar pears, you can see the detail there on the left. And all these, again, are viewable on artsy.com at any time. And we'll be marking them sold as they sell. Gourds. And this is one you added a stand to, right, Kathleen?
Yes, it has a stand.
So this one has a stand. There's an updated photo of it on artsy.net. So you can see the stand. She added some other details too. Beautiful work. It's nice to see you continuing with even looking at work and reworking them to be up to your standards. Red plums, beautiful color, beautiful tone, very simple piece. 8 by 7 by 5, can almost go anywhere. Yellow buds, beautiful work on the branches. Another example of her work, just stunning stuff. Detail, look at that. I mean, I don't know how you do that. It's spectacular. Oak branch, This one is kind of surprising because once you get closer to it, you can see the detail that she does getting and executing her work. Just simply stunning. A fun one I love, melons. This was a piece she did on. This is a cutting board, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, cutting board that she took and was inspired by to create these melons. It's almost organic and natural in appearance. I just love this piece. Detail. Folks. And then another piece, plums in reds and yellows. Lots of beautiful colors and tones in this piece. This is a great all-around work by Kathleen, and just took some details. This is tomatoes and peppers. This was on artsy.com, still there. This one did sell, so that's what the sold's up there. And we invite you guys to come back to artsy.com. Expect a link soon in the chat after I stop sharing here to get you back to see this exhibition and look forward to seeing the future work she puts together. Lots of compliments in the chat, just saying that they have your work, they love your work, they love you, and I as well. I'm impressed by what you create every day, and it's a great honor to have you in this exhibition. So I will share this post in the chat. If anybody has any questions at all, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, because I love to dive into Kathleen's head. I do have a question for you. When you're making these lampwork pieces and you're doing the fruit, I'm assuming, and I could be wrong here, you're making the fruit separate and then attaching it to the actual artwork, or is it kind of a different process that I don't understand?
Yes, I make all the parts first. So the piece behind you there, I make a branch, I make the leaves, I make the fruits, and then I start joining them all together in the flame, kind of building up the piece.
And is there, like, obviously I saw your installations, but a single piece can get pretty big. I saw you had that 63-inch piece. That's gotta be fun to do.
Yeah, those really big ones, I use steel for the big vines, and it supports the clusters of glass.
Gotcha. Good,
Yeah.
good. It's great to know, because I mean, lamp working at that scale is beyond my comprehension. So I'm glad we have you here to help explain. So yeah, there will be more work. Someone asked a question about the rest of the series. So different series will be released with different bodies of work, and they're all relative to each other. So I'll be informing everybody of that as we go along. We have all the details worked out. So, and they'll be posted to the artsy.com, artsy.net page. So you'll be able to see the presentation actually grow. And if you jump on one week and you kind of like something, you can go for it, or you can wait for the next week, but it will be different than the previous week in a different body of work. You've seen her exploring the amazing body of work where she takes botanical and animal and combines them together into a unique, doesn't exist imaginary creature that now is alive in glass. So it's great to be by these things. I was going to put one behind me, but I figured the digital would work better in my office because I'm here today. But it's amazing to have you, and we're thankful to have you today. And like I said, if anybody has any questions, let me see. Someone said, can you talk more about your more recent work? The women's whites can go in so many directions, but I appreciate your desire to be positive. Can you tell us a little more? Someone's asking.
Yeah, my idea, I want to make symbols of empowerment for women. Like there's the women's symbol with the, I don't know yet because it's brand new, and I only have like an inkling of the series. The Venus of Willendorf sculpture from ancient times. I want to look for other women's symbols besides the uterus. Those are glass uteruses and ovaries, which I think are really interesting forms and can do lots with those. But I want to look for other women's symbols. I want to invite other women artists to collaborate, because I think they would take really different visual directions depending on the other artists. Like, can you imagine? I hope these people aren't offended. I'm going to say their names, but can you imagine Christina Bothwell with her beautiful cast glass in the form of a uterus with some kind of botanical elements on it? My gosh, it would be stunning. Or Shelley Musilowski Allen with her beautiful surface decoration would just be incredible. So this is my vision. It's super early, and we'll see what I can do with it.
Yeah, we'd love to be there. We'd
hope
love to be
other-
there with you. I have ideas too. I'll mention her
Oh,
name,
good.
Susan Taylor Glasgow, who's all about this kind of stuff, would be
Oh,
an
cool.
amazing person to be part of this too. But that's exciting. You know, it's nice when collaborations are always difficult, but they work in an incredible way, as we
Yeah.
well know. Well, I guess that's about it, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to also unmute yourself. We'll say goodbye. Thank you, Kathleen, for joining us today. And
Thank
thank you
you so
everybody for
much.
being here. And this will be posted up on YouTube soon. And you feel free to share it with anybody you would find it interesting. Well,
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Wonderful
being
to be
here.
here.
The question, Aaron.
Sure, Peter.
So Kathleen, your Castaneda experience obviously had a big influence on your work. And I love to see how it changed the way you approached your subject, so to say. Have you ever thought about going more abstract? I mean, there's a tendency that I see in the work.
Yes. Yeah, I think in my imaginary botanicals is where I went most abstract.
Mhm.
I have never done totally abstract work. I just have not done that. I'm going to have to try that, Peter.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you could make leaves up. You know, you did that to some extent. You know, make your own fruit, something that looks out of this world. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And therefore it would become less recognizable and more kind of more abstract. I was just wondering about that. If you have ideas or fantasies about doing that.
You know, I have I can tell you there are artists whose work I really admire and wish I had more of the quality of boldness and freedom and just letting go. I think that's a personality, you know, like a self kind of issue or not issue, but characteristic. I think I don't have that style of just boldly letting go. So I'll have to try that, Peter. You're poking at me here. in a good
Yeah,
way.
I am, honey. I am. I think you should
You can see
give
some of the,
yourself that freedom. I mean, that's very much Castaneda, you know.
Yes, yes, yes.
I can see Laura Donover holding up her piece she has of yours in her personal collection. Everybody who has the multi-view up. I know I saw Karen holding hers earlier. So that's great that you're part of so many people's collections and they enjoy them every day.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody else with their hand up? Oh, someone asked, you've worked with Susan Longini. Are you still working together at all with her? What's the story there?
We are sort of hovering on the edge of doing work together. We live really, well, not really close, but you know, close enough we can get together, but now we can't. So we've sort of put it on hold. So we haven't done anything recently, but we are going to. It's really working with another artist is absolutely extraordinary because you have to take two really different visions and two really different people and come together. And there's so much letting go in collaborating and trust. It's super great.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I hear that with collaboration. I hear that with a commission. It's a trust. No one makes the work better than the artist, and we have to trust them to do it, and it works out. Every commission is always better than expected usually, and the artists always want to make an impressive piece. It's a lot of fun to do, and if you see something you like of Kathleen's work and it's not right, let's talk to her. She's right here. Let's have a conversation anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And last year I had the opportunity to do 2 pieces of tin tape. Oh my gosh, what an extraordinary experience. I think the combination of his way of working and my way of working, putting those together, it created something neither of us obviously could have done on our own. Just really, that's some of the work I'm most proud of, those pieces we did together.
Those infinite mirrors are impressive, and I know someone in the room is loving it. I just want to also say, flame working is an amazing talent to get to a level where you're recognizable. And there's so many artists who represent Kathleen, Paul Stankard, Katrina Weintraub. I'm sure there's many more I'm not thinking of right now that create in such an impressive, Laura Donifer, that create in such an impressive way using this skill to create their own art form. And I'm envious in a way because they perfected this style and made their own. And we're honored to have them in our Habatat family. I look forward to seeing more of their works anytime. And like I said, it's a lot of fun to be seeing these things and enjoy them every day. And I invite you guys to do that and share and get the word out. We're all trying to get the word out in this digital world. I know I've talked to other galleries, I've talked to museums, and they're setting up video studio tours and all this kind of thing to get the word out. And I really feel like this whole pandemic has really kicked us all in a way to try to get the next generation aware of what we all love and care about. So one good side of it is we're all adapting, and I think it will end up being a great thing, in the long term. So everybody says we love you, Kathleen, that's for sure. And we'll say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for joining me today. We'll see you next week. We are going to be visiting with two artists in the Not Grandma's Glass show, Michael Janis and Tony Porto. It's going to be an amazing display, totally different. It's going to knock your socks off. Either you're going to love it or you're going to close the screen. But I look forward to seeing you all then because it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it myself.
Thank you, Aaron.
You're most
So-
welcome, guys.
Thank
It's a
you.
wonderful show.
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
Kathleen.
Fabulous work.
Oh, Kathleen, thank
Bye,
you so much.
Kathleen.
I'll call Aaron about that piece. So thank you.
Great presentation, Kathleen. Absolutely
Thank you,
wonderful.
Peter.
Thank you.
Love it, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Missy.
Everybody have a great weekend. See you all soon.
Miss you,
Bye-bye.
love you.